Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on KTN News Weekend at 1. My name is John Allenham. Two families are now in agony over an order to exhume the body of a university student who was killed during the Garissa University College terrorist attack. One family has been told that the body of the kin was buried after the April 2nd attack was wrongly identified as that of Philomena Kasioka and has to be exhumed over the weekend. Another family, which for the past 7 months has been looking for the body of their daughter, now hopes that once the body is exhumed, it will turn out to be that of Rispa Kasioka. Our reporter Morimi Mwangi is in Kitui and is following up on this. Morimi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Namu, and we are here at Itavanzo village that's in Mwingi North.
Yes.
And both families are here. The exhumation exercise has just started. Yes, and the body that is being exhumed is that of Philomena Kasioka. Even the family of Rispa Kasioka, the other family whose body was wrongly buried here,
yes,
are also here. And it's quite a mood of grief, but at the same time that of a sigh of relief for both our families.
All right, who is being pinned with the responsibility of the burial of the wrong body, essentially?
There was a mix-up of the names and the details, the DNA results from the Chiromo mortuary. Yes, because the two victims share the second name, and at the same time they were, according to the authorities, they were look-alikes, and it was quite difficult for them to establish who between the two was Philomena and who was Rispa. But the families here are okay that the matter is being put to rest here.
How did they arrive at the conclusion that it was the wrong body that had been buried? Was there some sort of checking of records? Was there a legal process?
Yes. Now, the family of Rispa has been searching for her since the attack. That was on April 2nd. And they couldn't know where their daughter was until a few months ago, when information came in that there was a body that was still uncollected at the Chiromo mortuary. And as it turned out, that turned out to be the body of Rispa Kasioka. The DNA results showed that it was Rispa's, Rispa's body. Okay, I mean it was Philomena's body, Philomena Kasioka, who was still in the Chiromo mortuary, and that gave them the conclusion that apparently the family here had buried the wrong person. The body that is in the grave at the moment is that of Rispa Kasioka.
All right, finally,
Moremi, showed.
Yes, finally, Moremi, after this exhumation, and if it is indeed found to be the body of Philomena Kasioka, that means that one family is now without their kin, at least knowing where their kin is. Where does the search pick up from here? Do they know? Have they spoken to you about this?
So after the exhumation, the body is to be taken back to the government pathologist for fresh DNA examination to establish that indeed this is the body of Rispa before they hand it over to the family, so that we do not have a repeat of what is happening here today.
Yes, but for the family that thought that they had buried their kin, Rispa Kasioka, that means that they didn't indeed bury their own kin. Do they know where the search is going to take off from now that it is in 7 months since that April 2nd attack?
Okay, the body that was at Chiromo mortuary has been brought in, and immediately after the exhumation exercise, the family is undertaking a fresh burial right here. The body has just arrived a few minutes ago.
All right, thank you very much. Moremi Mwangi reporting for us from Kitui County, where an exhumation of the body of one of the victims of the April 2nd Garissa University attack is taking place. Wrong identification leading to this, and quite a bit of anguish 7 months on for the families there. Now let's move on to perhaps a little story with that is a little happier. Now his love for one day owning sunglasses is what has driven a Kenyan sculptor to international fame. Now making sculptures that have been entered for international awards may not have been a goal when he started, but he's now an international award-winning artist. This is the story of a young man who has never been trained to do what he does best.
The Kuna Trust Art Center in Nairobi is a place where artists can create and display their work. Kenyan artist Cyrus Kabiru, a sculptor and painter working at Kuna, is one of about 500 artists associated with the trust. His art finds new life in pieces of junk like bottle tops, wires and discarded plastics. Kabiru's latest project is inspired by renewable energy, which will be part of an exhibition highlighting the benefits of sustainable development on the environment.
This is a windmill, this generator, this is the wiring of my alternative. And after the windmill, the end will be the lights we need, the energy we need. That's why I have the lights on the bicycle.
Kabiru is self-taught. He refused to go to art school even after his father offered to pay for his studies. The artist says he wanted to forge his own path and didn't want his vision to become influenced by teachers and other people. He is famous for his elaborate C-stanners, a unique range of eyewear. Kabiru says as a child he wanted to own a pair of glasses and his father told him to make some for himself. That challenge was the beginning of a creative journey that has seen him gain international acclaim. Kabiru's work sells for $700 and more. He says many Kenyans still shy away from buying his art because they can't afford it. His clients are mostly tourists and expatriates looking for souvenir pieces.
He's full of fantasy. And he makes the work in a very, very special fine art. And he's nothing to reprint.
I don't sell my work, but my work sells itself. Yeah. So if you have something good, people will accept it. So there's no need of me selling. I just let my work sell itself, which is like it's giving me a chance to think. Yeah, if I make something that will sell on itself, it's made me to think more.
The artist's pieces have seen him take part in various exhibitions both at home and abroad, including shows in the United States, France, Germany and South Africa. He was one of 6 Kenyan artists selected to take part in the prestigious Pan-African Barclays Tour art competition in July this year in South Africa. Kabiru is also a TED 2013 fellow.
In another level, which I'm working hard to go to be on it. This year it's like things are happening in my work, things are changing, and that's one of the thing that making me to see the change.
The sculptor says he wants to set up his own workshop where aspiring creators can learn and grow to find their own unique style of art. Aaron Ocheng, KTN News.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to deliver a keynote address at the 11th summit of the Northern Corridor integration projects currently underway here in Nairobi. The region has 4 partner states, including Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan and Uganda, all striving to enhance cooperation, integration and speeding up of development. Of immediate concern is a long-time cargo spends to and from the Mombasa port to its destination, and there are many causes of delays from the slow operations at the port, multiple weighing at weigh bridges, many police checks, uncoordinated border checks, among many others. Now our reporter Patrick Amimo is attending the meeting and now joins us by telephone. Patrick, has the meeting started and what are the first items that have been discussed on the agenda, if it has?
Thank you, Namu. Indeed, we've been, since morning, we've been waiting for the start of this particular summit. But so far, it's yet to kick off because what I understand is President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, President Kagame of Rwanda, Salva Kiir of South Sudan are in attendance, and they are still having at least a close session meeting with the President Uhuru Kenyatta at another venue within Nairobi here, where the meeting is being held at the Safari Park Hotel. But expect any time maybe from now they will be coming for these. The President Uhuru Kenyatta will be leading the other heads of states to the summit and for the official opening. But at least stop on these, given that this is the 11th Northern Integration Project Summit. Remember, the 10th one was held in Kampala, Uganda. Now this one is being held in Nairobi, Kenya. And this, remember, the first summit was held in June 2013, where the heads of state from this region said that agreed to meet every 2 months to review progress made with regard to this particular corridor. This transport corridor is, some of the countries in the region are landlocked, and they're looking at infrastructure like the standard gauge railway that will open up the region for trade and other political benefits as the region is integrated. So it's just the project is designed to generate this sustainable political goodwill that will be necessary to fast-track implementation of this particular project that they have lined up. If maybe one of the projects, if I can just mention, like the standard gauge railway, which was launched last year, and it's also construction is ongoing. So I think it will be one of the areas that they'll be looking at to monitor the progress and any area that requires funding.
All right, Patrick, before I let you go, there are a number of issues that, of course, will be discussed at this summit, a number of commitments that were made by leaders at the political level, but practically it's been very difficult to implement. There are complaints right now in Kenya about a 16-hour traffic jam affecting the Voi section of the Mombasa-Nairobi highway. What are the commitments, or rather what are delegates willing to discuss about the commitments that have been made to ease pressure on this corridor as it stands right now without the infrastructural developments?
Indeed, I think these are some of the issues they'll be discussing at the closed door session, because what we've been told is that after the official address by President Uhuru Kenyatta, after he delivers his keynote address, they will have the leaders will remain for a closed door session where they've invited, where the heads of state will be attending. We also have members of the East African Business Council who've been invited, because now there is a public-private sector partnership that has been brought on board, where I expect the businessmen will also have to give the problems they're encountering when it comes to the transportation of goods and other services across the region. Maybe they'll give them the hurdles they face and how they think they can be streamlined for faster transport and development. But so far, they are saying that some progress has been recorded so far, especially where they talk of the removal of non-tariff barriers, though there exists in some areas where it's very difficult for people maybe to, especially when it comes to work permit, those are yet to be implemented. They also talk of like the one network area where the roaming charges on voice calls have been harmonized and seen the calls reduced drastically, and where they've also allowed citizens from the East African community to be able to visit other countries with the use of the national identity card. Yeah. So these are some of the positive things that they have put in place, but more needs to be done. So that's one I expect they'll do it in the closed door session where leaders will not be invited, but all the heads of states and the business community will be deliberating on those aspects.
All right, Patrick, final question from me here. Ethiopia and Eritrea are building a railway line passing through both countries, effectively giving Ethiopia access to the port at Eritrea, and that railway line being touted as one that could reach into West Africa. Are we looking beyond ourselves here in East Africa? Are delegates talking about what the infrastructural projects that we're undertaking, especially the railways, the standard gauge railways, could do not just for East Africa but for Central and perhaps Western Africa?
Indeed, Namo, if you look at it from the look of things, they are focusing their attention on the 4 East African countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, and Rwanda, and maybe probably they'll later on rope in Democratic Republic of Congo. But the Northern Corridor, if you have to go back even in history, it's to do with there was an idea by one Cecil Rhodes, who had imagined that there was, at one time he had dreamed that there would be a railway line connecting Cape Town to Cairo. And these are some of those ideas that maybe that were during the colonial era, which are maybe the leadership of the independent African states have seen that it will be workable for their region and the continent for rapid development. So once these are like the standard gauge railway is connected, there will be an inter-regional link across Africa, even through the road network. For Ethiopia, they've done their part. Whose road networks link up with Kenya. The railway network is also linking up with Kenya. So, and it also needs just a small connection like for Ethiopia through the LAPSET project, which will link up with Ethiopia and to the rest of North Africa. And for DRC Congo, once the SGR is there, the railway goes through Uganda and Rwanda, then DRC can pick it maybe across to the Atlantic. Namu?
All right, many things to consider there at the Northern Corridor Summit. Thank you very much for joining us, Patrick Amimo, President Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, Rwandan President Paul Kagame, and South Sudanese President Salva Kiir, all expected to attend this summit to discuss progress with respect to those infrastructure projects and indeed the entire Northern Corridor project itself. Now let's move to West Africa, where Guinean leader Alpha Condé has been re-elected for a second term in the first round of the country's presidential election. The provisional results released by the Electoral Commission showed Condé winning by an outright majority with close to 2.2 million votes. Meanwhile, the opposition has said it's pulling out of the contest, claiming that the Sunday vote was marred by widespread fraud and mismanagement. Preliminary results from the vast majority of the ballots cast showed Condé ahead of his main rival, Cellou Dalein Diallo, with 6 other candidates trailing. Now, it's not immediately clear what Diallo's withdrawal means if the election goes to a second round runoff, which it doesn't seem to be going in that direction. Now, Condé would need around 2.25 million votes to win an absolute majority and make good on his campaign to pledge a deliver-co blow to the opposition by sealing a first-round victory. The election has raised tensions in a West African country with around a dozen people killed in clashes between the main 2 rival camps. Now, the proper implementation of the peace agreement in South Sudan has not yet begun, leaving the situation tense and anxious, says George Omondi, a research fellow at the African Research and Resource Forum. Let's hear from him now.
The situation in South Sudan is, in summary, tense and quite anxious. I think the anxiety has to do with the beginning of the implementation of that peace agreement. I'm saying the beginning because it seems to me that even though there have been some follow-up activities in Addis Ababa in terms of the meetings between the 2 groups on security arrangements, implementation proper has not begun. For Uganda, I think the fact that there's an agreement that has been signed is a good exit strategy, because I mean, if they stay beyond this agreement, the question is, when then do you want to leave? What's going to be the landmark that's going to make you leave? Whether it is a good sign or not, I think in terms of security, it's perhaps a good sign, because I can only imagine what's going to happen if Riek Machar was going to return to Juba in December and still find Ugandan forces there. There's only going to be one method, and that's going to be force, so to speak. I think people in South Sudan, the leaders, and particularly President Kiir and his group, are going to do a lot of the things expected of them only by force. The question is, whose force? I think that force is going to be to come from the international community. That force might come from regional, states in the region, neighbors. If the peace agreement collapses, yes, there is a high possibility that the humanitarian situation is going to worsen, because the only bargaining chip then that will be left, particularly for the rebels, is to continue fighting. And that's how rebel movements operate. I mean, if they cannot get the peace agreement implemented, they're not going to lose the inconvenience they cause by fighting.
Very negative forecast of the situation in South Sudan. Indeed, that peace agreement is not being lived up to as yet. Now, ODM-nominated legislator Isaac Mwaura and Robert Mutemi will file a motion in Parliament which seeks to create a special fund for people living with special needs in society. The 2 members of Parliament say the people living with disability in society have been neglected in many ways. They say government should consider creating a special fund for buying items needed by persons with special needs. The two legislators made the remarks after donating 16 wheelchairs to disabled persons in Guinea.
Kwa sababu ya ile shida ambayo iko, nitapeleka mswada bungeni wa mheshimiwa Mutemi na mimi wa kuhakikisha kwamba serikali inatenga pesa ya kununua assistive devices. Hiyo ni wheelchair, crutches na white canes na vitu kama vile, kwa sababu watu wetu ambao wana ulemavu wanateseka sana. Jambo lingine, kama mtu ana wheelchair hawezi akafanya kazi ama hata kwenda shule kama ni mtoto. Kwa hiyo hili ndio jambo kubwa sana. Wale watoto ambao mmeona hapa, hata wengine hawajawahi kutoka kwa nyumba. Kwa hivyo ni jambo ambalo linafaa kuangaliwa zaidi. Kuna kijana mdogo ambaye amepata TB ya spine na akaacha kusoma. Kwa hiyo mambo ya devices ni muhimu kwa sababu inasaidia watoto wetu kusoma ili waweze pia kuanaweza kujitegemea.
Ninaomba wambunge wote wa national government waweze kukubaliana nami tuweze kuweka kitego maalum, a special fund ambayo itakuwa inawashughulikia walemavu kwa kuwapatia vifaa vya kuwasaidia ili waweze kujimudu kimaisha.
All right, there's lots more coming up on KTN News Weekend at 1. Stay with us wherever you're joining us from. We'll be back with more, including sports. My name is John Allen Namu. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us on KTN News. This is KTN Weekend at 1. Let the news continue. The Kenya Community Center for Learning today held a walk at Nairobi's Uhuru Park in a bid to spread awareness and sensitize the public about dyslexia, a learning disorder that affects one's ability to read or interpret texts well. Statistics indicate that 1 in every 5 people suffers from this particular learning disability in Kenya, and the center has been able to raise 2 million shillings so far to aid in dealing with the disorder. The funds will be channeled into setting up proper learning facilities in Nairobi and the rest of the country. Global statistics indicate that there are over 86 million people who suffer from learning disabilities, including dyslexia. The event was sponsored by the Standard Group.
Known in this country in terms of understanding what it entails. The child may not have any physical challenge but may be unable to understand or learn. So the dyslexia, the dyscalculia, all those fall under what we call a learning disability. Learning disabilities are not commonly known because most of us focus on what we call the traditional disabilities, the physical disabilities, what we can see. But learning disabilities are hidden disabilities. There has not been much focus on learning disabilities, and that's why as a school we feel that we need to take this opportunity to inform the members of the public about learning disabilities.
In the whole of Kenya we have over 2 million people, persons with disability, and we need all to support and we need all to come together so that we can be able to support these children so that they can be able to realize their dreams, because I believe their dream is still valid.
I'm so glad for this day. May God bless those disabled pupils and the students also.
The 34th edition of the Impala Floodlight Tournament is set to kick off this Saturday at the Impala Club. Teams will be looking to test their combinations and new players, and that's ahead of the 2015-2016 Kenya Cup League, which kicks off on the 21st of November. It will not be an easy task for KCB, who are eager to defend their title.
It is all guns blazing as this year's Impala Floodlight Rugby Tournament kicks off in earnest this Saturday, with clubs, universities and school competitions. Last year's title was bagged by bigwigs KCB, who will be going for an unprecedented third straight Impala Floodlights title, starting their title defense with a day's top bill quarterfinals clash against Mwamba RFC at 7 p.m. The winner of this encounter will meet the winner of the Menengai Cream Homeboys versus Total Nondi's tie, a match that will kick off at 2 p.m. at the Impala Floodlights grounds. The host resolution Impala Saracens play Kenya Harlequins in the latest installment of the Ngongred Derby at 3:20 p.m. And at 5:20 p.m., the same venue, Top Fry Nakuru will be up against Pan-African Strathmore Leos. The tournament will be played on 3 consecutive weekends, which is the 17th, 24th and 31st October, and only features the top 8 Kenya Cup sides. In last year's edition, Alan Omuka was named the most valuable player, while Peter Karia emerged as the top try scorer, as well as the most promising player.
Of course, more sports news and analysis coming up on Scoreline, but that's where we end it on KTN Weekend at 1. My name is John Allen.